Hey everybody, John Highley here, coming to you today with this little door edge crunch here. I probably shouldn't say little because for a door edge hit, this one is actually pretty bad. If you can take a look here, it kind of projects, a good size, almost like a golf ball size hit throughout the door. And you can see there it kind of went into the door casing, creating a little line through the dent. I'm going to show you my technique of making this thing happen. So right here is the inside of the door jamb. You can see where it's bent. It is double layered and triple layered. So what you see there is the inside of the door casing, and then you got the outside of the door skin laying over the inside of the door casing. Right here is my setup. This is how I am going to keep that door nice and steady throughout the repair process. This is a hood prop, and it's just latched up with a rope ratchet. That's going to give me a lot of room to work there to do my hammering. You can see here that I do have a knockdown and also have a soft tip knockdown. I'm also going in with this Drew's blending hammer that has quickly became one of my favorite blending hammers. This thing practically blends the dent out on its own. So look at that. That is what I'm going to be doing. So here we go. I'm going to put a little heat on this thing. It is actually a little cold out here. So I think this morning it was in the upper 30s. It's probably in the 40s right now, but I'm going to go ahead and heat it up, get it nice and warm. And the first thing I'm going to do is straighten that edge. So what you see here is me straightening the edge of the door, trying to align it with the adjacent area above and below it. And I'm doing that with just some nice hammer strikes. That tip's amazing that comes on this Drew's blending hammer. It's got a nice rubber coating on it, and it just has some good impact there. So right here is kind of a side view of what it would look like, what I'm doing here on the inside of the door jamb. And you can see here I have completely straightened out that edge in that amount of time. So there we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and heat it up some more. We're actually going to be going into the impact point. You can see a lot of that impact point swelled out whenever we straightened up the door edge. And that's exactly what you want. You don't want to work it under that kind of tension. You definitely want to align the panel first. Now this is my soft tip knockdown. I am literally beating it through two panels. Just a heads up on these repairs. I never promise perfection. And I always tell them that the inside of the door jamb could be damaged. Although this one, we're going to try to minimize it, and it's not going to be too bad. There's some of them that have this kind of this squishy seam sealer type stuff in there, and sometimes you can leave little dots and kind of tear that stuff up. But this one right here, you can see I'm actually beating through the two panels. Now I'm taking my sharper knockdown on the other side and just kind of laying down the hits that I made on that other side. So what you're seeing here, guys, is me taking my tool, you taking my knockdown, and hitting down the spots that I pushed through the double and the triple panel. The double panel's not bad. I'm actually working the back edge of that right now. That's the easy part. When you get into that triple panel that we looked at earlier where the door skin was folded over, I mean, you got to kind of, well, number one, you got to be careful because it'll slip off. It's not really a stable area to hit on. Number two, you got to really hit hard to get through a couple panels, or let alone three panels. So here I am essentially tapping it out from the back side and then tapping it on the front side. And you're going to find you can actually do some pretty aggressive tapping on this. And as long as you know how to hit it from the backside right back out, it's pretty forgiving. It's kind of moldable. So I'm going to bring you in a little bit. You can see here we moved a lot of it out. But I'm going to go in there, and I'm actually going to try to get into this triple panel a little closer to the edge. You can see it right there. Notice how that dent just starts to swell out, and you've seen it right there. So it's a little bit of a high spot right now, and we're just going to go right back in here and set that right down. Each and every time I go through one of these sessions where I'm tapping the back out and tapping it from the front, the damage gets either a little bit smaller or I'm dishing it out to make it much more shallow. So that's the key. And what we started with there was kind of a dug-in golf ball style dent. And here we go, making them taps. You can just kind of see it disappearing in there. This has been a very effective technique for me. This is the way that I've done, every door edge that you've ever seen. This is the way that I've done it. And, I've heard a lot of folks say that it's kind of an erratic way to do it, but I've had a lot of success with it, and that's just practice over time. So here we are. You can start to see where I've got a low, and you can see that little bitty line on the inside of there, that furthest into the middle, right there in the middle of that dark area. That little bitty line is right there on the edge where the door casing actually meets the door skin. But you can see that I'm actually going to go in there and begin trying to target that. You can start to see it disappear there. So again, just little taps. And I say kind of little taps, but I am hitting this thing pretty hard. But because we're going through 2 or 3 panels of metal, you see little movement. You can see here just kind of getting down to the nitty-gritty on this thing. A little bit of blending goes a long way on these door edge. So you can see there, it's beating up the knockdown. I don't know if you just seen that, but the knockdown is literally taking a licking, but it's keep on ticking. And it's working just fine. You can see I just pierced right through that one little hole that we had in there. So there we go. Just keep on knocking it down. This is where you just rinse and repeat. So you knock it down, you get that one deepest low out, and then you start looking around and you say, well, now I have a little low up here. So you get in there and you knock down the little low up above it. You say, okay, now I got that finished. So I knocked that one up and then I tapped it down. Now I see a little bitty low down here. So then you take your knockdown from the back side of the panel and take it a little bit lower and take out that little low there. No different than traditional dent removal. It's just that you're working through 2 to 3 panels of metal at a time. So you can see here just getting into that core and kind of trying to blend out that very... You got to be, I'll tell you what, you got to be real careful on these edges because the further you go into the door, you can make a hard divot. But right here's a look at our panel as it is. Not too bad. In fact, the way that I sell these jobs, that is actually acceptable in a lot of circumstances. But you know how we do it here. We're doing a tutorial. We're making this thing happen. We want to take it to the next level. So yeah, you know what? This actually looks really good compared to the rest of the door. The rest of the door had quite a bit of body work on it. So here I go. We're kind of blending the front of the line here. And you'll find these dents, you see the original one, it's like it bowed throughout the whole door in that area. So when you start doing definition work here and finishing work, you're going to find yourself blending up and down throughout this whole panel. And essentially what we're doing here is we're just trying to tie everything together. We're trying to take a bunch of mountains and hills and valleys and turn them into flatland. That's what we're looking for here. So I got a couple mountains, a couple valleys right up there at the top. You got a bow, you got a crown here. We need to look at the whole picture. Sometimes you got to step back and say, look at that whole canvas. And that's where you find your little waves and areas that you need to blend. And you'd be surprised, once you relieve some of that surrounding pressure and you get really good at taking down your crowns, a lot of the dents around it that you would think were dents that need to be pushed up was just little lows that were trapped on kind of the hills of the outward crown and the pressure. So now you can see right there that I've actually got the light quite a bit back, getting right in behind the dent. This is my typical view here on this damage. So here it goes, a little straight on view there. You can see the wonderful thing about having the door open when you're working on it, especially this far, is that you can totally get behind it. It would be very tough to do this technique with the door closed. So you can see here, I'm just kind of working that whole line with the hammer. Oops, went out a little too far. Take it in a little bit. This is the finishing technique. And now, a wonderful thing for my cross-checking. Look, I'm looking down in the light, and I'm seeing this leg that's kind of lit up from my light. And you see that little wave inside of the light's leg? I'm going to use that to blend this spot out. So I'm going to go in and just use that nice parallel reflection that I have down there on the ground. And I'm looking straight down at it. This is our finishing angle. Well, kind of. I mean, I want to say it's our finishing angle, but I will go back and forth. Like, I'll do a few hits there, and then I'll look down into our light. I'll do a few hits up there, and then I'll look back down into our light. So at the very end, I like to be looking at a couple angles pretty close together to finish it out. So here we are. Take a nice look at that there. Looking pretty darn good. It's definitely as good, or actually it's much better than what I had promised. In fact, I am this car was delivered, and I'm doing the voiceover on this. The lady was absolutely ecstatic about this repair. This is one of them ones I looked at, and I wasn't 100% sure, but you can see here the door jamb did not take much damage on this one. I will warn you, though, there are the door jambs. If they got that squishy stuff, like a squishy painted sealer on it, you can beat that stuff up pretty bad. So right here was our tools it used. A Knockdown, soft tip Knockdown, another Knockdown, Drew's blending hammer, and my trusty yellow hammer. So there it is, guys. Take a look at it here outside, and of course this is the way the customer came and took a look at it. Went down both sides of the vehicle, and you can see here it turned out really, really nice for the type of dent that it was. So anyhow, I hope this clears up a lot of, or if any, confusion on this matter. I know this was a tutorial that you guys had been waiting for, and you wanted to see our techniques, so I'm happy I was able to deliver them to you. And I feel that probably most of the stuff that I did it with, you guys have it in your toolbox. So anyhow, a pleasure having you along, and we'll see you on the next one.